up with was that the actual pods would be 2 per floor, and so that we're able to go and integrate those with learning spaces where collaborative work areas that the teachers, the students, to the extent that they want to be able to work together in an environment just outside of the classroom, those types of spaces are accommodated. So these lighter blue areas are what we're calling breakout spaces or larger group learning areas. So if you have science, which is right here with green, and math happens to be in this space, or social studies happens to be this, you can have those types of joint learning opportunities where everybody can go and gather here in the center and have that kind of commingling across the different types of classes. So all of the classes, and I won't try and get into them all now, are accommodated in each one of these clusters. Most likely, it's going to be something where if you look at the current grade where we're sitting right now, all of this space right here will be at that level. And the first floor, for this, we had actually tried to hope, where we had hoped that we would have been able to keep it all and gone up 2 from there. But it looks like what we're probably going to do is come in at the middle level and go down 1 and then probably go up 1 based on the information that we just received back from the surveyor. So again, the idea is to keep all of these short shared court areas, okay, somewhat close to the middle school because they're going to be using them, and also to the high school. And so the middle school will have 2 connecting corridors over to a main street. Main Street will have the gymnasium space, the cafeteria space, again the auditorium and media center. This is right here the central administration. This area right here will be high school side with its own separate entrance. This area right here will be middle school side with a middle school separate entrance. The middle school is broken down, and again, the plan here was to try and save in terms of trying to save some money with this building, because we found that the building structure was very solid. We found that a lot of the classrooms were of sufficient size, okay, and meeting the criterion within the guidelines to a large extent. And so we took that interior space, that gymnasium space, because what we wanted to do is we wanted to be able to get more light into these classrooms. One of our objectives is to try and get light into every classroom, natural light. So we want to have windows either from the exterior, or in this case, what we're talking about is taking the gymnasium. No longer will the gymnasium be required on the middle school academic side because it's going to be shared over here. So we're going to break this area into science, and then essentially an interior courtyard with breakout spaces. And so we're able to go and get a 7th grade and an 8th grade here, and then the school within school concept. And this was some feedback actually that we got from the middle school teachers, is that initially when we had the setup, we had it laid out a little bit differently. And they really liked the idea of this type of cluster arrangement. And so we tried to accommodate the best that we could here, keeping 7th grade and 8th grade on the first floor, and then breaking 6th grade out onto the 2nd floor here, so it's school within a school type of situation. And again, we have these breakout areas, okay, that are on each one of the houses. And so we think that it should work pretty well. And we've had a number of scoping sessions, okay, with the administration, again, to go through that. On the lower level here, because if you look at the way that the site works, back over on the site plan here, this is kind of an area which it kind of leaks down, and so we're able to take advantage of that on the site by bringing in a lower level here and bringing in some of our kind of back of the house space in some areas in terms of storage, in terms of deliveries, as well as being able to go and keep the music area, band, chorus, music classroom, adjacent to the auditorium, because that's a natural adjacency that you want to be able to maintain. So all of that is located on the floor below. These spaces right up here are art. The dark red represents technology. Blue is administration. And this blue color right here are classrooms of various types and sizes and shapes.
Brad, the classrooms are all, the size-wise, they're consistent with what the MSBA requires, correct?
All of the new classrooms will be right within that bandwidth that they have. These classrooms here are a little bit smaller, okay, but acceptable to MSBA. We think that they're certainly sufficiently sized for the student-teacher population or ratio that you have here.
And the common areas, the phys ed, the auditorium, the cafeteria, the library,
Yeah.
they're all basically consistent with what MSBA will allow. Is that correct?
Correct, and you're actually able to get some efficiencies, by using the shared course approach here. And what we have in the gymnasium space is we have two full-size gymnasiums here, another one here, and then laying out the long way is a full-size competition court with accommodation for, I believe, about 800 bleacher seats. And one of the things that we were able to do with that is we were actually able to make those gyms a little bit larger than MSBA would typically allow. I think those are both sized at about 7,500 square feet per gym, and the standard in MSBA is about 6,000 per gym for a regulation MIAA court. But because we're able to combine those and get those types of efficiencies out of it, we're able to expand those a little bit and still not exceed the cap for the physical education and gymnasia spaces. We also have, obviously locker rooms that are separate for the middle school, separate for the high school, team rooms that are located there as well. We have a fitness area up here, weight room area, dance, wrestling. So it's a fairly well thought out, I think, program in terms of your physical education space.
So it's set up so you could have two high school teams practicing, a middle school game going on. Is it that kind of setup, or how many simultaneous events could you have going on in the gym space?
Well, you'll have two full-size gyms that will be available at any one time. But if you're having a competition event, if you're having a high school game, that would have to be scheduled.
But for practices, I mean, you could have a couple of teams, 3 teams, if they're only using half the gym, or
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
The other question I had is, you talked about light into the classroom, and then you mentioned coming in at a second level and then going down. Would that mean that down level is, I don't want to call
Subterranean?
it? Yeah.
No, we would, because in this area, this area is right about here, and this is where the site starts to drop off.
Mhm.
So what we'll end up doing is having to retain some of that, back, keep that slope back, and still allow for windows and light to get into that lower level. So it's not something, that we're looking to go and say everybody's going to be in a
Yeah,
basement.
that's what, okay.
You had something?
Are there separate entrances for the middle and high school?
Yeah, there's a separate entrance right here for the middle school, and a separate entrance right here for the high school, both located right next to the administration spaces from a security perspective. So that seemed to work out pretty well, and again, the concept that we're being able to share some of these core spaces, we were able to work out, with both the high school administration and the middle school administration, where, for example, a copying room. If you had, very simplistically, if you had one room that was 250 square feet, and you would have that in a program for the middle school and a program for the high school, 500 square feet total, you might be able to have one copy room that works for both the middle school and the high school, and it's 400 square feet, or whatever the numbers work out to be. But the concept is you're able to go and save, 100 square feet in that example. So if you're able to save 100 square feet in that example for something like a copy room, that 100 square feet now can be applied to something else, whether that be educational space, whether that be gymnasium or library space. So we're trying to accommodate or take advantage of some of those efficiencies and be able to go and utilize that space somewhere else.
And another question for you pertaining to technology. What about the shared wireless areas and printers? A lot of people have printers on their desks and
Yeah.
things like that. Are there plans to place these in certain areas that,
Well,
whether it's the educators or
yeah, it's a good question.
administration that can get access to them?
I think the plan would be, and what we see in most schools that we're doing now, is everything is set up as wireless. You still have, data drops in the building, so, you can still plug in as well. But we'll have routers throughout the whole building, so pretty much everywhere you go, it's going to be Wi-Fi. In terms of, computers, I think you see more and more of a trend going towards a laptop-based type system, and now you even see it more and more with tablets. so that, the technology is set up for something that's really starting to drive how you look at this. You don't have as many spaces for computer labs per se. It's not something where you go out into a computer lab to learn how to use a computer. The computer's already in the classroom. And so we're not going to have a computer lab space, but we'll have a designated area where we have a charging station, okay, so that the laptop carts can come in, those can be charged and then they can be brought back out. So all of that technology is now woven in.
You guys gonna have any kind of 3D walkthrough of the building eventually, or?
Well, we're actually just starting to drop the building into 3D design program right now.
Revit?
Into Revit, yeah.
So you're using a BIM model then to?
We are, yes. We are. But we kind of had to get the concept worked out before we all of a sudden start, hardlining it.
Yeah, that's great.
Brad, can you give us a timeline on where we're headed?
Rob, can you give us a timeline?
Yeah, I'd love to. As Brad said, we just submitted what's called the preliminary design program to MSBA, and that's really just talking about all the square footage. Yeah, and there's the book right there. And they should be getting back to us, hopefully saying, yes, we approve your total square footage. The next step for the next 7 weeks is preliminary schematic design, which focuses on one of the options. And like we've said, the option we're focusing on is the combined middle school, high school with shared core. And then after that, once they approve that, we'll be going into full schematic design, basically, which will bring us to December, and we'll be on target to go to the full MSBA board meeting for full approval at their January board meeting.
At the same time, I think the schedule is that once we're done with the schematic design, and MSBA is with you every step of the way. We don't get too far out in front of them. So by the time we get to the point where we're presenting this to their board, we have the people within MSBA on board with what the approach is. Otherwise, we never get to go to the board meeting. And so when we have them there, we're very hopeful, obviously, at that point that the MSBA would approve that. And at that point in time, now the town similarly has to go and approve this plan and the funding plan for that. And so the way that the process works is the town technically has 120 days upon receipt of approval from MSBA to come in and approve the funding for their share of the project. And I think the way the schedule is working right now is to take advantage of the long-term schedule is to try and have that 120 days really come right after the MSBA approval. At that point in time, we could then go and start to move forward with the remaining portion of the design, which is significant, anticipating that we would probably be looking at doing some early packages to take advantage of the building season that year and get as much of that done as we could. And then the way that the building would phase out, at least what we see today, is that the high school portion would be built first, and the shared core portion along with that. That portion would be built. The students would be able to move into that. The middle school students, would get relocated down into the existing high school. The middle school would then be renovated. And once the middle school is renovated, then the students would move back up, into the middle school. And then the high school would be demolished, and the athletic fields and the additional site work would be completed. That's all under the presumption that MSBA and yourselves as a town, approve that this is the option that you want to move forward with.
And the 120 days, essentially, in my opinion, gives us pretty much one crack at this